Good afternoon, everyone. Wait, this is a student life panel. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Right? Am I right, colleagues? Yeah,
yes.
That's how we do it. I'm Audrey Bilger. I'm Reed's president, and I am thrilled to see you all here today. We're excited to be welcoming new students, and we understand that for you all, you're excited and having lots of feelings about dropping your students off, and trying to understand what their lives are going to look like here at Reed College. And so I'm pleased with this panel. When I look down this line and I see these amazing members of our community, I want to tell you that these are people who get up every day trying to think of how to make things better and good for our students here at Reed. These are people who've dedicated themselves to studying how we do this. These are people who are experts in their field in thinking about how to connect our students and help them feel the sense of inclusion that is so important to us here at Reed. It's a tough time for young people and for you all as well. And we've been going through tough times as a country in the last couple of years with the pandemic, with various infectious diseases, with a lot of turmoil going on in the country. And so, this additional transition and change is likely to inspire a lot of complicated inner workings for you. And so we're hoping that this panel will be able to give you some sense of the breadth of support that we make available to students here at Reed. You'll see the caring and compassion from this team, and no doubt, if you've been on campus for a little while, you've seen that from many of the people that you've met. Reed is a place where if you stop to look at the map, someone will come up and ask if you're lost or need some help and direction. We are people who do look out for one another and take care of one another. So I am really pleased to also be here to say that this is my 4th year at Reed. That makes me a senior. I'm going to make a lot out of that, senior, but I'm not planning to graduate. It just means that I've gotten over those awkward first years, and as I said, those were pretty wild years here. And so I'm looking forward also to seeing you all tomorrow at convocation, to seeing you at the reception tomorrow, and then seeing you when you come back on campus over the coming months and years. We think of this as a community family, and you are now an important part of that. And so I'm going to turn things over to my very talented Vice President for Student Life, Dr. Carnell McConnell-Black, also known as Dr. K. Thank you all so much.
I exist in real life, y'all. I really do. For many of you who have seen the videos, I do exist in real life. So it was great. Just this past weekend, we were filming some more videos, and we saw a couple families down at I'm going to give you a little clue what the next video is going to be about. We were down at the PSU Farmers Market, and so there's a lot of Reed connections down there. Yes, I said we caught a couple families scoping us out that may even show up in the video. We'll see. As President Bilger said, I'm Dr. K. I serve as the Vice President for Student Life here at the college. I'm starting my 3rd year here at the college as well, and so if Audrey's like a senior, then I'm a junior. I'll take it. Really excited that y'all are here. We have a great, wonderful panel of folks from across the college, not only in the Division of Student Life, but also from the Center for Life Beyond Reed, as well as from the Office of Institutional Diversity. So we got a lot of folks on this panel today. They're going to be sharing and doing introductions in just a second, and then we'll be doing kind of brief 5 to 7 minute kind of brief kind of introductions to their areas and their offices and things that they want y'all to know, to be aware about. But one of the things that I always tell families when I have you in the space is that we want you to be a partner with us in this work to support your student. Your students are not just what some folks call brains on sticks. Your students are intelligent and smart, but they are human beings at the end of the day, and you know how we get. So a big part of this is that we want to also make sure that your students feel supported, that you have the resources to be able to help your student as well. I'm a storyteller, and so I may give you a little story that I'm going to share about how I see that engagement happening across the college. So in my career, I've worked with lots of families and parents and things of that nature, and I've had the pleasure of witnessing for myself some interesting stories or interesting situations. So as I said, we want you to be partners. So I'm going to tell you two stories, one that is an extreme and one that is not, which is another extreme, just on two different spectrums. But I do want to say we want to find somewhere in the middle ground. So our students have a lot of fun here. They have dances and balls and things of that nature. And one year in my career, I had a parent show up to a Halloween dance. Yes, Halloween dance, full costume, everything. And the student was like, and it was the dad, by the way. The student was like, they were a little upset that their dad showed up to the school dance. I hope that many of you are far away from here so that doesn't happen. But what ended up happening was, I was like, we got it. We got you. You've entrusted in us to provide some support to your kids. So I don't want you to be on one extreme of that parent that's showing up stealth-like at a dance. But also, on the other end, I've had those situations where I had to make a phone call in the middle of the night, and the parent's like, you deal with it. And I was like, whoa, hold up. So my hope is that we find somewhere in the middle of being great partners to support your student and to really make sure that they have a successful experience and thrive. So I share that. As I said, I'm going to be joined today by a phenomenal group of colleagues from across the college, and we know that there are going to be you have lots of thoughts and probably lots of questions. And so one of the things that I will ask you to do before we get into things, I'll give you the rundown in just a moment of how today's panel is going to go. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and do quick introductions of our panelists. And so we'll start closest to me, Alice.
Thanks, Cornell. Hello, families. I'm Alice Hara. I'm Associate Dean of Students. I direct the Center for Life Beyond Reed, and I just want to say a quick congratulations for having a student accepted at Reed College. Very impressive. Well done.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Claudia Ramirez Islas. I utilize pronouns she, her, hers, and I am one of the Associate Dean of Students for Student and Campus Life here at Reed College. And I've been here 2 months. But 4 years ago, I was at Reed, and obviously I loved it enough and I loved the community enough to come back, and so happy to be back under this new capacity. And congratulations again for having your student here at Reed.
Welcome. My name is Gary Granger. I'm the Director of Community Safety or the Minister of Mischief, depending on what's happening. I've been here 13 years, so I don't know what that makes me. Other than
right.
Old. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Chi. I'm the Assistant Dean for Institutional Diversity, so I work in the Office for Institutional Diversity here at Reed. The two areas that I oversee in which your student might be interacting with my office is our Multicultural Resource Center and our SEEDS Community Engagement Program. So I'll talk a little bit more about both of those programs later. This is my 7th year at Reed, so I'm a super senior.
Hello, I'm Steve Aberhow, Associate Dean for Academic Life. I oversee 3 departments in our Academic Life cluster, which is our academic support, disability and accessibility resources, and international student services. And I've been here for 6.5 months, so like a freshman here, so I appreciate the welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I'm one of those call and response type of people. Good afternoon. Thank you. I love energy and good energy you have, and I'm sorry, I want to suck it up. I am Tawana Parks. I serve as the Martha A. Martha A. Darling, Dean of Students here at Reed College. I am also a rising sophomore, as this is officially my first year. I started an orientation, which was a week prior to this date, so it was on the 16th. So 1 year here, and I'm excited to meet all of you in this session, and hopefully we'll have some time afterwards. Thank you.
Hi, parents. I'm Yeshua Gopal. I'm Associate Dean of Students for Health and Well-Being, and yay for Reed for even having this position. So I feel really honored to be here and to meet all your students. I am located in Elliott 204 and sort of will be overseeing our Health and Counseling Center, our Sexual Health Advocacy Resource Education Center, as well as athletics, fitness, and outdoor programs, and also working in collaboration with community safety. So we'll have a panel tomorrow, and so you'll have plenty of opportunity to ask questions there as well. So I'm very happy to be here.
So as I said, we got a lot of folks to chat with you and have some conversation. So just to give you a little overview of how the session's going to run, we'll do brief overviews of each of the areas. So they'll have about 5 to 7 minutes to share a little bit about their areas, what they offer, resources, ways that you can connect and support your student. After that, we'll try to spend just a bit of time at the end for questions. And so we'll have folks around the room being able to come to you to get your questions. One of the things that I ask as you're asking questions, again, remember my 2 stories, by the way. So we ask that your questions be general in interest versus very specific to your individual student, because I guarantee you, your student doesn't want the information all out there. So again, we just ask that you do more general. We will have folks at the end of the session. They'll be here hanging out for a little bit. So if you do have a very specific question, they'll be able to answer some of those individually with you here at the stage at the end. So, and again, while there probably be a lot of different questions are out there, if we don't get to all the questions, no worries. We are here all year long. So, we're here all year long. So there will be plenty of time and opportunities to connect with us in whatever way possible. So to get us started, I'm going to have Alice go ahead and start us off with doing a brief introduction for the Center for Life Beyond Reed.
Thank you again, Dr. K. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me in the back? Doing all right? Thumbs up. I love it. So, in addition to employer relations and corporate engagement, the Center for Life Beyond Reed advises in 3 very specific areas, and then I'm going to link it to your first-year students: funding and fellowships, graduate school, and career advising. And here's what we love about first-year students. Here's what we love about your students. And I'm going to pepper this with advice for you throughout. Funding and fellowships advising. So I'm going to start with that. Your student is eligible for a career advancement fund today. They can apply, and we do it every single week. It's up to $500 for them to explore something that's meaningful and connected to them with what they want to explore that may have a potential for a career opportunity. And here's the important thing about that. We're teaching them to learn to write for competitive funding, even from their first year. Because next they might write for this spring, they could write for a summer internship award, which is $4,700, a research opportunity, $5,700. It moves up into the national awards of the Davis Prize for Peace at 10, the Watson at 37,000, the Rhodes, the Fulbright. And so we advise on all those awards. We scaffold their learning from their first year. 71% of our national fellowship winners have applied for a Reed sponsored award. So my advice to you is to encourage them to apply for a career advancement fund. And if they don't get it this time, keep applying, because they're learning to write for funding. And it's a lifelong skill. So that's my first. Graduate school advising. That may feel a little bit early for you, but there's a high probability, high likelihood that your student will go on potentially to continuing education in grad school. 63% of our alums do. We rank in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place in the country for PhD placement, depending on the discipline area. And last year's class of 21, 23% went straight from Reed into continuing education, whether it was a master's or a PhD or some other continuing ed. So we introduce your student to degrees that their faculty academic advisor may not be as familiar with: law school, med school, public health, post-bac programs, and other things. My advice is, if you have a student who thinks they want to be pre-med, please send them to us quickly. We want to see them as soon as possible. And finally, career advising. I have to say, this was designed with first-year students in mind. 7 years ago when I came to Reed, one of my 3 sons was a first-year student, and he and I spent the summer designing this before I came to Reed. It's called the Community of Purpose Framework, and it's not what job do you want to have for the rest of your life, and not something that a first-year student or really many students can answer. This is helping first-year students identify what they find interesting, what they care about, what they lean into, what podcasts they listen to, what conversations they want to start, where their outside reading lies. So whether it's sustainable life on Earth, or art and beauty in the world, or the care and cure of illness, or science and research, or tech and innovation, or investing in social responsibility, or any combination of those, or several more of the communities of purpose, we teach them how to create community connections within that place with alumni and students who share that purpose. And we find that first-year students can do it like that, can identify it like that. It'd be a fun thing, my advice would be a fun thing for you to do with your student. I will say that in their first year, I do want to say they typically meet with a peer career advisor. We have 5 highly trained, they do 40 hours actually this week, juniors and seniors who are trained to be professional advisors with the first year students. They can really help them with transitional resumes from high school to college. They help them look at campus jobs. They help them look at research opportunities. They introduce them to the Communities of Purpose model. They help them apply for funding. So each of them has won an internal or a national award, and then they do a seamless handoff to a professional advisor. So my advice, this is the last piece of advice, would be to make sure your student makes an appointment with their peer career advisor. It's easy to do through Handshake. It's right on our website. And it's an important part of every first-year student to learn to orient on campus by finding an upperclassman who can be a mentor. And in this case, our peer career advisors are professional mentors. So I'll just close by saying, unlike most colleges, our Reed model integrates all of this advising together so that your student has one advisor, one professional advisor who oversees them over the 4 years that they're here. And our goal is that they can launch from Reed knowing how to move into the 3 primary areas that they would after graduation. So that would be national fellowships, graduate school, or internships and work. And along the way, what we hope we've taught them is how to identify and explore their purpose, how to apply for continuing education and work, and how to find funding for the resources that fulfill their ideas and their purpose. So happy to answer questions afterwards. Thank you. Claudia.
Claudia, you're up next.
Awesome, thank you. All right. So you all probably heard me introduce myself as the Associate Dean of Students for Student and Campus Life. And so for those of you who are wondering, what does that mean? Basically what that means is that I oversee 3 areas at the institution. One being residence life, which a lot of you had your students moving on campus, so hopefully that was a smooth transition. And if you have questions, happy to answer those afterwards. But residence life, student engagement, and also a director of student support. And so all these operations definitely took an entire village to put together in organizing new student orientation, but I would say that our student engagement office, along with our operations team through Residence Life, worked really hard in putting that together. I'll talk a little bit about the specifics of what each department sort of does, but I also just want to echo a little bit of what Dr. K said at the beginning, which is we're really here to be a resource to you all and definitely see you all as a partner in the investment of student success for your student. And so I encourage you all to partner with us in making sure that your student is being engaged and involved, but also too, if at any point there are questions or things that come up, like we want to be accessible and available to you as well. And so with that, I will begin by talking a little bit about our Residence Life Department. Our Residence Life Department consists of 8 professional staff members who are there to support and serve your students in various ways, shapes, and form. A lot of you probably got an opportunity to meet maybe one of the area coordinators, which are professional staff with their master's degree who are there and who live in the residence halls and are there accessible to support your student. In addition to that, there's also house advisors, which are upper class student leaders who are also there to support your student in the residential living experience. A lot of times, this is the first time students are cohabitating a space with someone else, and so we find that house advisors, along with area coordinators, are really an integral part in helping sometimes mediate roommate conflicts or helping build community by having structured programs in the residence halls that are not just the traditional 8:30 to 5, but really after hours and weekends. And so area coordinators really play an integral role in that in the residence life team. In addition, we also have an operations coordinator, which helps with sort of any kind of room issues, or if there needs to be any kind of changes or anything happening, like operations coordinator is really there to support us on that end. And we also have an assistant director and a director of residence life who are there as additional support to the residential education team. I talked a little bit about the programming that happens in the halls. There are also things that happen throughout the entire year that might be sponsored with multiple halls. And so I would just highly encourage your student to be on the lookout of opportunities to be able to be engaged outside of the classroom. We all know that Reedies are very much academically driven and very intelligent and bright students, but I think it's really important to support their holistic growth and development, and that means being involved outside of the classroom. So one of the interesting things about the residence life curriculum, I guess you could say, is that we have a neighborhood model, which means we strategically put all of our first-year students together in a couple of buildings, and that way they're building community within their cohort. And then once your student is a sophomore and decides to live on campus, we also have communities or residence hall buildings specific to sophomores, and then also resident halls and buildings specific to upperclassmen. A couple of the first-year neighborhoods include the Cross Canyons, which is Chittick, Griffin, McKinley, Woodbridge, Nato, and Sullivan, as well as Trillium. And this year we're bringing back two of our themed communities, which are the BIPOC community, which is the Black Indigenous People of Color Res Life community, and then also to the Queer Collective. And so specific and targeted programming will also happen in those halls. Moving forward, talking a little bit about student engagement. So student engagement is really there to also provide additional support to your student outside of the classroom, whether that's through clubs and organizations, if your student wants to be part of that. I believe within the first week or two, we actually host an activities fair for students to sign up for different clubs and organizations and be involved. So again, highly encourage your student to attend that because it's a great way to meet new people and also just try out new things. Also, too, if there's a club that they're interested in starting, the Office of Student Engagement is a great resource for helping your student get that club or organization started. In addition, we also have the Gray Fund, which I think is very special and unique to Reed College. Particularly, the Gray Fund is a fund that is available to provide various programs both on and off campus, not just for your student, but also for faculty and staff. And so it's a great way to meet and network with faculty or staff outside of the classroom. And so highly encourage your student to also take on and be part of any kind of Gray Fund trips or events that are organized. And then last but not least, I also just want to highlight the student support position. We're actually in the process of hiring someone right now. And ideally what this person would be doing would be able to provide some case management and consultation in order to support students who are under high stress. And so this person is really there to help triage and connect with various parts of campus in order to make sure that your student is set up to success, and if they're struggling in any kind of area, to be able to provide that additional support. And so happy to answer more questions. Again, also our Dean of Students, Tawana, is helping me conduct the search, so she can also answer a couple of questions. But that's a little bit about like a brief overview of the cluster that I oversee. And I think ultimately too, for me personally, one of the things that I really like to drive forward as I'm leading sort of any effort or overseeing the parts of campus that I am responsible for is I always try to make sure that I have a social justice lens in everything that I do, whether that is in any new policies or procedures that get developed, really thinking about, who are we serving and how are we best supporting our students, particularly those with marginalized identities. So that's a little bit about me, and happy to answer more questions later. Thank you.
Next up, we'll have Gary, who is from Community Safety, to share a bit about the Community Safety Department.
I will bookend what I have to say with the most important thing that I want you to remember. I'll list a couple of things, and some of them you remember, and most of them you probably won't. But what I want to say is that the community safety team is here 24 hours a day. So 24 hours a day, every day of the year, there's a person in the 28 West building who is there to help students and really anybody else on campus, but students primarily when they're living here with whatever it is they need. We don't provide all the services. We don't do residence life or career advising or long-term medical care, but we do help students find what they need. And so if your student is stuck, if they just don't know where to go or who to talk to, please encourage them to contact us. We're giving out trading cards. I think I gave one to a couple of folks here already with our phone number. We have a 24-hour emergency number. We have a texting line. And so we are there for students every hour of every day of the year. So please let them know that to come down and see us or to find us on campus. One of the things I'll point out is that the structure of my team is that most of you know of campus people who do what I do as police or security or sometimes both. We are not a sworn law enforcement agency. We are not armed. We operate as a community safety department because our emphasis really is on safety. I will say that we do monitor for alcohol and other drug use. We do try and prevent people from stealing bicycles and climbing on the rooftops when they shouldn't. And so all of that is part of our portfolio. But primarily we're here to collaborate with this entire team on harm reduction, on helping students find great ways to become hopefully a little more of who they wanted to be when they got here. We do the usual things you might think of. We unlock doors for students that are locked out. We jumpstart cars. We patrol the campus. We do all those routine things. But more than anything else, we're here to help support this entire team to help your students succeed while they're here at Reed, hopefully proactively through great engagement. But also, we're here as the backstop. We're trained in first aid. We're trained in mental health first aid. And so if there's a crisis on campus, we respond first and then decide what other help might or might not be needed. So again, please remember to let your students know that we're here 24 hours a day. This is also for you. I'm easy to find. You can look on the web. If you search Gary Granger, you find me and the person who was in the Addams Family Values movie who had my name. So you could be on the first hit, I think. Please find me if you have questions. I'll be on campus. I'll be walking around today and tomorrow. We have a nice reception tomorrow, and I enjoy talking with parents during that. Have our phone number. If you don't, see one of my officers and get a trading card. I'll give all our information on it. And again, welcome.
All right, so I'll talk about the two areas that I oversee. Again, the Multicultural Resource Center, or the MRC, another acronym to add to your lexicon, and our SEEDS Community Engagement Program. And SEEDS is also an acronym you can add to your lexicon, and it stands for Students for Equity, Education, and Direct Service. So the Multicultural Resource Center is really there to support students who are navigating their identities, cultural backgrounds, and at all the intersections. And so kind of four main things I want to talk about for the Multicultural Resource Center. We do amazing cultural programming. So we like to bring in exciting new speakers, authors, creators, people who are thinking really creatively, and we try to bring a wide range of disciplines, backgrounds, representations to campus, and so we encourage you to encourage your students to engage into our cultural programming that we'll have here on campus. The second is we engage and support student identity-based clubs and organizations, so we partner really closely for the Office of Student Engagement that Claudia oversees. And if your student is engaged in an identity-based club and organization, the Multicultural Resource Center can really help support and engage the types of activities that they would like to do. The Multicultural Resource Center also runs our Peer Mentor Program, in which some of your first-year students may be involved in. Our Peer Mentor Program is a program in which we match incoming first-year students with upper division current students to be their peer mentors. This is a really great way for students who need that additional support in their first couple of weeks on campus, their first semester, their first year. It is a year-long program. In addition to a pre-orientation experience, we have monthly activities for those who are involved in our peer mentor program. And again, just another additional layer of support for your students to not only have staff who are here to support them, but also upper division students who can support them as well. And then lastly, the Multicultural Resource Center has a space on campus. So we're in the Student Center building. It's the little building that is right next to what we call the Blue Bridge on campus. Again, we house that same space with our Office for Student Engagement, and this is a really great space for students to hang out in. It's a great place for study breaks and for them to kind of socialize and get to know each other a little bit. In that space, we try to provide a lot of resources, so we invite a lot of our staff partners to be in that space for consultation. Students can have one-on-one time with any of these staff members, with student staff members. There's student workspaces if they just need a closed-door space that they want to get some homework done, or if they want to have meetings, things like that. So we provide that space in the Multicultural Resource Center as well. The second area that I oversee is the SEEDS Community Engagement Program. We have a community engagement credit here at Reed, so we call it our PE or CE credit. So these are 6 credits that students need to graduate. Students can fulfill 2 of those 6 PE or CE credits by doing community engagement, and what that means is we have a list of off-campus and on-campus opportunities for students to work with our community partners. So a lot of times this is working with nonprofit organizations in the Portland area that are providing really great service to the community here in Portland. And so if your student wants the opportunity to get to know Portland a little bit better, engage in some of our off-campus nonprofit organizations, they can fulfill 2 of their 6 PE/CE credits by doing some of that work. Additionally, if your student is federal work-study eligible, they can earn their federal work-study wages through that CE credit program as well. So they can go work in our community partner organizations and earn their federal study work wages in that way as well. In addition to federal work study and also that PE/CE credit, SEEDS is going to be organizing lots of one-time and ongoing volunteer and service opportunities, again, both on campus and off campus. So again, if your student is looking to do some direct service, whether that be on campus or off campus, we highly encourage them to get in touch with SEEDS, to get involved with SEEDS. Again, there could be one-time volunteer opportunities, and there's also ongoing weekly, monthly service opportunities that they can engage in as well. They can do that for their own time because they're interested in it. They can do it for credit. They can do it to get paid if they're federal work study eligible. And then lastly, our SEEDS Community Engagement Program runs our on-campus Reed Community Pantry. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check out our pantry, I highly encourage you to do that. We're having open houses all throughout this week. It's on the official orientation schedule. Encourage your student to check out that space. This is a free resource for students. And so they can go in, grab what they need, no questions asked. This is just another way, another layer in which we support our students who may be experiencing any food or resource precarity at any moment in their Reed careers. And that is fully run by our SEEDS team. I want to say with these 2 areas, a lot of our programs, a lot of our initiatives are all related to how we engage and retain our students. And so that is our big goal, is that they're having a positive experience here at Reed, that we're retaining them, and that they're successful in their 4 years here. So all of our programs and initiatives are really geared towards being able to support that because we find that students find a lot of meaning in engaging with either the Multicultural Resource Center or SEEDS community engagement. And so they're doing a lot of meaningful experiences in which they can connect what they're learning in the classroom and apply it to a very real-world context, whether that be community engagement, whether that be cultural programming, exploration of identity, exploration of leadership. All of those things are what we aim to support through our MRC and SEEDS programming. Happy to answer any questions. Welcome, everyone.
Hello again. Steve Abrahau for Academic Life. So again, I oversee 3 offices in our Academic Life cluster. The first one is our academic support. Academic support kind of offers really 3 major criteria. One is tutoring, so we offer individual one-on-one tutoring for all academic programs, so a student's eligible for 1 hour per course if the tutor is available. And then we have unlimited drop-in peer tutoring, so that means that if they don't want to do one-on-one with their academic coaches, they can go directly and meet with students and get some peer tutoring and group tutoring for those courses as well. That's kind of a big achievement for a lot of our students. They take advantage of that. Currently, about 45% of our students utilize some form of tutoring, either one-on-one or peer tutoring. In addition to that, we offer academic coaching, such as time management. So if you hear your student, time management is always a big one we always talk about. We also look at study skills, motivation. These are just kind of big picture items for them to kind of discuss with our academic coaches. And lastly, we offer our writing center and writer tutoring. This is significant for our first-year students who are taking HUME 110. A lot of them come with a strong background in science and maybe need some additional assistance in their writing. We have a writing center that's available, really implicit for them to get some strong skill sets in their writing long-term as well, so that's really helpful with our academic support. We love acronyms. Disability and Accessibility Resources, or DAR. This is really an opportunity for our students to kind of get some opportunities to kind of get some accommodations, not only academic, but also housing and PE oriented. So 1/3 of our student population is registered with our DAR office. Their major intention is to remove barriers and allow students a full access here at Reed and help them have the most experience that they can have here at Reed. So our team works directly with our students and faculty to kind of not only designate their accommodations, but ensure that those accommodations work well in those classrooms. Happy to talk about that a little bit later as well. Lastly, I oversee International Student Services, or ISS. We have about 10% of our student population actually comes from international students, over 150 students, and I believe it's 28 territories. This is really one of the most enriching part of our campus experiences because we get to bring a wealth of different culture and opportunities here on campus to integrate with our students and vice versa. So we teach them a little bit about America, a little bit about the Pacific Northwest. They teach us about their culture, and really kind of helps and thrive that culture that we have here at Reed as one big community. And so for us, I'd like to share that our main intention is not only support, but really advocates for your students. So no matter where our designations or criteria may follow, each one of us have connections on campus. And I promise that if your student comes to us and says, hey, I need help with this, we'll help them make those connections and make sure they have the resources and help advocate for them and feel comfortable in those conversations as well. Again, we're so thrilled that you all are here and that your students are here. And I look forward to chatting with you later today.
I promise I won't do call and response right now. So you've heard from two of the areas that I oversee. You've heard from the Student and Campus Life Cluster as well as Academic Life. And I'll touch on just a little bit about student support. Although we don't have the director, I am wearing the hat, picture it, of student support. So which means I monitor our care referral process where our faculty, staff, parents, anyone in the community or not a part of the community here at Reed, if they have a concern about a student, you can complete the care referral. That comes directly to myself as well as some of my colleagues who have access to that email. And what we do is we try to triage. We take in the concern from whomever brought it in. If there's a follow-up request with the person who sent the concern, we follow up with them. But mainly managing that particular situation for students to help them thrive. I don't want students just to survive in college. I want them to thrive in college. Part of the reason why, and I think this is important because I want you to take away a piece of a little bit of who I am as the Dean of Students. I'm a first-generation college student. Neither parent went to college. I went to Fisk University, another small school, similar to the size of Reed, actually smaller if you can believe that. About 1,000 students is the cap. And I arrived not knowing anything, had no clue. I had $100 in my pocket only because my mom made me pay rent for 10 weeks prior to going. I had no clue. When I got there on campus, I made a deep commitment to myself to finish and to thrive. But the second deep commitment that I made and I make to you is that if I ever have an opportunity to serve students so that they don't go through some of the things I went through, sign me up for that job. So that's me. I tend to be the person that I didn't have or I didn't know to go to in undergrad. So some of you saw, like, I was so appreciative. The energy, absolutely. Energy is so important to me, to give positive energy, to maintain it, because I often see students in crisis, and the last thing you want to do is talk to a grumpy person if you're in crisis. So that is not what's going to happen here, but I will listen attentively, and more importantly, to see the person that's in front of me, not just the student, but see the being that's in front of me and help guide them and direct them to whatsoever need that they have. That's my goal, and that's my promise, and that's my commitment, is to help. So that's what students support for me. Then on the other hand, I also oversee the area of the student rights and responsibility, wonk, wonk, wonk. Almost similar to the, is it the chief mischief coordinator? Sometimes student rights and responsibility gets a bad hat, right? Because folks that's the people you go to when you're in trouble. But I want to start with the first point is student rights. We want to make sure that students understand their rights here on campus. So what are the adjudication processes here? How do you navigate when you get in trouble? I want you to know that we approach it from a very equitable, very understanding and educational perspective when students find themselves doing something that maybe it's against the policy here at campus, or maybe they didn't know. A little bit of a storytelling, and then I'm going to pass it because I know you've been sitting and listening for a while. Student met with a student, 21 years old, and decided that in front of the quad, in front of the Commons, it was a good place to have a little cannabis. Why not? I'm legal. It's legal. Yes, but there's something called time, place, and manner. Would you like us to lose, as an institution, our ability to provide financial aid and get all of the federal subsidies and support we get? Of course not. Well, then that might be a good reason why not to smoke marijuana, cannabis, in front of the quad, because it's not a place federally we can't have that happening. So sometimes students just need to understand the why of what's going on, and that's something that I really pride myself in doing, listening and then helping students to understand the why, even though it may be against what we feel is common sense. So student rights responsibility, that's why we're here, to help. We believe in providing educational outcomes, which means something that will help you grow and learn and stretch along their journey here at Reed. I'm also the person that if you call the Office of Student Life as a parent, you'll likely get directed to me. And so, again, I look forward to hopefully fruitful conversations. It's not always bad. There's times where I was with a student, they were scared about their thesis, and we just timelined it out. I don't know about finals. Let's just timeline it out. I will sit here and make a plan and schedule for you. So that type of commitment you not only get from me, but from these folks on the panel and the folks that you haven't met yet. So welcome. I remember I've sat in that seat, not in that particular one, when my daughter graduated high school in 2016. Boy, really nervous for us, but she made it. Your students will make it, and welcome again to Reed. Thank you.
Hello again. I feel really honored to be on this panel where everyone is so devoted to the well-being of your children, our students, everything we do in terms of bolstering their, helping them with their resilience, their joy, their sense of belonging. That's really what is at the center of what we do. And having two daughters who have been through college, I know what you all are feeling. It's this combination of grief and relief, and I want to say that there's this misconception as parents. We think that we mistake caring for carrying our children. And as Dr. K alluded to, and there's this, beautiful interplay of independence and interdependence that happens. And, I'm here for you all. I'm going to give you my number. Okay, I've never had a number like this, so I'm really excited about it. It's 503-517-LILY, L-I-L-Y. And I'm new here, but I'm happy to, even if I don't know where to, navigate the challenge or the curiosity, I'm happy to get you to the right person. I experienced that just yesterday where Steve took the reins. So I'm thrilled to be here. I think I was also asked to talk about just some things to think about, because tomorrow, remember, we have a whole panel where we'll go into detail. I have a panel of experts, so they'll field a lot of questions. But okay, so I think of it this way. It's sort of like to take five. A, like the five vowels, A-E-I-O-U. So A, we have an abundance of resources here, and you've already heard some of them. E is for earthquake, which also is for emergency contact. So just make sure that your student has one of you, or maybe like a favorite auntie that always picks up their phone on the emergency contact list. A-E-I. I is for health insurance. Make sure that your health insurance actually is valid and working. The student health insurance is a great way to go if you're unsure, or call, between now and tomorrow, just pick up the phone, call your insurance company, make sure that they're going to cover here the greater Portland area. I had that issue with our daughter number 2, so I just want to, okay, so A-E-I-O. O is for OM. It's for remembering to breathe. I'm happy to help your students through that. I'm happy to help you all through that. our breath is our constant life partner. So just remember that. And then you is you all. Because you know your students the best. And, so you know the history. If you need to reach out and let us know something, feel free. But also remember that, so my background is pediatric and adolescent medicine. So I've been sort of navigating these nests for decades. And we're going to trust you and your intuition as well. And I want you to remember that, our intuition is the most important thing. So if you're feeling something, please reach out. And also, another suggestion, and this will be the last suggestion, and then we can do questions, would be book a weekly FaceTime call with your students. And it might be that, you have the kid that's gonna call you every 15 minutes and text you in all caps and, or you might have, the student that just decides, oh, I'm just gonna hang out and not call home. But if you can book that weekly call, you actually will get to see them, you'll get to hear them, you'll get a vibe of what's going on, and I think that is a great way to just put something on the calendar and hold them accountable. And so we are excited to partner with you and cannot wait for convocation, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow will be recorded, so if you can't make it, don't worry, it'll all be recorded.
So you heard can y'all hear me? All right, here we go. There we go. Y'all at the front can hear me. Those in the back are like, I don't know about that. So you heard a lot of good information from folks. If you didn't write it down, it's okay. We're recording it for you, so you can be able to watch it again to be able to go back to some of the things that you heard. But one of the other things that I want to point out, and it reminded me of these things because we have conversations with our students about this quite often, is about FERPA. FERPA is really important. FERPA stands for the Family Education Rights Privacy Act and Educational Rights Privacy Act. And it's an important piece because you will call us wanting us to give you some information about your kid. And if your kid is 18 years old, we can't legally do it. So one of the things that we always encourage folks to do is to make sure you have that conversation with your student before you leave tomorrow evening and get all the documents signed so that you can have the conversations where we can release information to you about your student. Now, my rule of thumb about FERPA is that when there is an emergency situation happening, I will break FERPA to make sure our parents are in the loop and aware of what's going on, because safety is one of the most important pieces of making sure that our students are well. So, but again, that applies to all of our areas, whether we're not just going to send you a student's grades, we're not doing it, just FYI. Or that the Health and Counseling Center is going to just send you records over. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't happen that way. How many of you are first time, I would say first generation college graduates? We got a handful. Awesome. So y'all know, y'all remember the days of that. And so as everyone, as you think about, again, how you're going to support your student, that's an important conversation to have with them about making sure that they complete the FERPA waiver, so that way we can have some of those conversations with you as appropriate. And then I was, Yeshua said relief for y'all. A lot of y'all are excited to be like, I am sending them off to go. I get that bedroom for my hobby or whatever the case may be, or I get to travel a little bit more without the extra added cost, or whatever the case may be. But we're really excited again to open up and actually have some questions from you all. And as a reminder, I ask you to keep them general and not specific to your student, as we'll have time at the very end where our panelists will be able to answer some specific questions about your students. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Someone will come over and share the mic with you. All right, up here in the front.
Thank you all. Claudia, you mentioned something about the BIPOC and the queer residence communities. Are those specific to certain residence halls, or are all students that identify in those ways available to engage?
Yes, so right now they're currently in Trillium, but we're wanting to expand them to be probably in other residence halls. And so I think with COVID and kind of transitioning back to a more normal semester, a more normal academic year, we're looking to expand those. But if your student is currently not part of that community at the moment, we're definitely going to open up the programming so other students can also come and be part of that. And then we'll also be collaborating more closely with MRC and the Office of Institutional Diversity to make sure that we're providing support for students. But yeah.
So for them to find info about that, it's in Trillium primarily?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have some way in the middle here. They're coming to you. They're coming to you.
In terms of safety, with the rising overdoses with fentanyl and the tendency to experiment more when in college, do you have Narcan available with the security services as well as like actually in the dorms?
So the question was about fentanyl and what our harm reduction program looks like and our response program. So on campus, in all the residence halls and many of the buildings on campus, we have emergency overdose boxes that are filled with Narcan. Our Health and Counseling Center also offers fentanyl test strips with their program. And we have a much broader harm reduction program, and I encourage you to check in with either myself or Yeshua afterwards and come to the panel tomorrow where we'll be talking more in depth about that. But we're well aware of the fentanyl problems nationally. And Portland is obviously not immune to that, and so we have, I think, what is a pretty good program in place. But talk to me after if you want more details. Thank you.
There was someone in the back as well.
A couple quick questions.
Go for it, and then we'll get the person in the back. Go for it.
All this, by the way, great information. Thank you. All this information, is this also for the resources being communicated to the kids, or is that something that we need to disseminate to them? And then I have one other question also.
They're getting this information as well.
Cool.
But we want you to know, so they're gonna come to you and they're like, well, I didn't really, did you? And you can be like, did you even have a conversation with Steve and his team about those resources? Because I know what they offer.
If they have questions, we can give you Yeshoda's number again if you want to. Lily,
That's all we need. That FERPA paperwork, is that something we can pull off online to give to the kids and get all that done?
Yeah, so if you actually, if you're on the college website, if you just type in FERPA, most likely it'll take you to the FERPA form.
Anything
that allows
needs to be
that.
notarized?
The thing is, you can't fill it out. The student has to fill it out. So, FYI, y'all. The student has to fill it out. You can't fill it out for them. I just want to be clear about that.
So that form's actually located in our registrar's office. So if you just look under registrar's office forms, there's two forms that parents generally like to have. One's called parent grade report request and then student academic information release. So those two forms are available on the forms registrar's office. And again, as Dr. K mentioned, that has to be submitted by the student and completed and the signatures by them before it's released.
We have one in the back. Go for it.
I was just going to ask about the FERPA thing also. Someone else beat me to it.
Awesome. We had someone up here up front.
She's coming.
You named those forms. Is that the same name? Is that a federal name of a form, or is that just here at Reed College?
That's what it's called here at Reed.
We have a question. We have two on that side. Oh, I was like on that side of the room. There's two on this side of the room.
I just had a question about personal safety. Does Reed offer to the students any self-defense courses that are offered to everyone specifically?
So the question about personal safety and self-defense courses. So I do not offer self-defense courses. I know through our PE programming, there are many courses that help students become more physically capable and confident. I know there are jiu-jitsu courses and other courses that are focused on helping students feel confident that they can take care of themselves. I encourage folks to walk with a partner We offer escorts 24 hours a day if a student would like that. And, to check in with us about just general safety awareness around campus.
Thanks again for offering this. I was wondering, a lot of our kids have been, gone through COVID as during their high school experience, and so they've been cooped up with their parents a lot. Has that kind of changed any way in their policies or kind of thinking around that? Kids are going to have kind of a different way coming into college.
So just to make sure I have the question right, it's about how we're navigating COVID still and how, again, resources, things of that nature that we're probably offering in connection to just the changing landscape of COVID nationally.
So,
Okay. So there, and I'll let Yeshua also add into the mix here as well. But the college has, again, a really, we're actually continuing diagnostic testing, particularly in the Health and Counseling Center for students who exhibit symptoms related to COVID. We also have isolation housing as well for students. Some students, depending on how full isolation housing gets, we will ask students to also isolate in place as well. And so that, again, we recognize that some students may have roommates and things of that nature. So we really take all of that into account when we're developing the actual plan based on the individual circumstances for the student. For students who do go into isolation, we will, and the other pieces is that we are still following CDC and also our local health guidance. And so part of that is that after 5 days, a student will be able to test as well if they're in isolation in order to get out, unless they are still positive, and so they'll have to remain obviously in isolation. But we're also, again, we send some communication out to faculty as well about ways that they can support students who may still be in isolation as well. So that's, again, another resource. But I think the other reality is that we want to make sure students are prepared, because this is really, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And that's, a lot of colleges across the country are really thinking about how do we operationalize this as a kind of norm of our day-to-day. And so making sure that students are prepared, like you go to school, you make sure you have your mask, you make sure you're vaccinated and things of that nature. And so we still are requiring that students have vaccinations as well. So again, there's a lot of pieces and elements to that that we're wanting to still ensure that our folks have a really safe experience. And it's not just our students, it's our faculty and staff as well. Did you want to add anything, Yeshua?
No, I think that's perfect. I also sense that maybe you were also asking about the release of information and also the psychological toll this has taken on all of your children. I'm guessing that it might have been spring of their sophomore year of high school. Is that right? When the day, like Friday the 13th or whatever it was for all of us. And pandemic was not even in their vernacular, and so to have navigated all of that, and so it comes with a lot. And so, yes, we have, so to answer your question, I think there's a separate form, correct me if I'm wrong, with the Health and Counseling Center for students to fill out regarding who their medical information can go to. As well as their, mental health information. So that's a very specific sort of form that is available through HCC, Health and Counseling Center. Does that feel good? Okay.
Oh, there's somebody with the mic. Sorry, hold tight.
Oh, sorry. Far away, like many people, so our daughter doesn't have any sort of transportation here. She doesn't have a bicycle. Will you all help the students navigate how to move in and out of the city and explain bus stops? And she's familiar obviously with public transportation, but is there any formal way for her to learn that, or would that just be a Google it type situation?
I think it's a couple different things. So all of our first-year students have OWLs, number one. OWLs are orientation wayfinding leaders, and they have been really great about connecting, or if they're in the PMP program, they have a peer mentor as well. And so upper-class students are really good at helping give advice about navigating public transit. Even just here alone, when you walk outside off of Woodstock, we have bus stop there, we have a train just a couple blocks away, we have a bus stop on the other side. Our students are also still savvy at using y'all's credit card for Lyft and Uber. So, you know, those things too also exist.
Yeah, I have a two-part question to follow up on the earlier conversation about COVID. My first question is, when a student, if and when a student is in isolation, do they have food brought to them, and do the professors work with them to make sure that they don't fall behind on the lectures or tests that they've missed? That's the first part of my question. My second part is more numerical. A question, I mean, how many students here came down with COVID in the last academic year? Yeah. So how big a problem has this been?
Yeah, so for your first part of the question, which is about kind of meal deliveries and support with faculty, we do meal delivery for students who are in isolation. So that is still a practice that we will have for this coming year. And then also faculty work very closely with the student on an individual basis about what things they may need to shift or change as it relates to the academic, related to their academic course. Some things just look different, so they may require extensions and things of that nature. And then your second question about numbers of students, I don't know off the top of my head, but when I look and compared at the end of last year, a comparison of like how we did compared to a lot of other institutions, our numbers were really, really low in comparison to a lot of institutions. And that part of that reason is we were even more conservative than we were this year, obviously, going into this year. We were more conservative last year around how we were navigating things, but we also recognized the practicality of like life these days. Mm-hmm. So that's another piece of it. We have time for one more question. It's going to be over here in the back.
Reed is part of a reasonable-sized city, and I thought it'd be interesting to understand if you could speak generally on what is safety like on the Reed campus, and in particular any issues safety issues that our kids should know about that have happened with some regularity on the campus.
I think in general, in speaking about safety, it is most important for your students to remember that they're in a community, in a city, like many other cities, and to think about those things before they go somewhere off campus. On campus is not really a protective bubble, but it is different than being outside of campus. We have a couple of uniformed community safety officers on campus every hour of every day. We go through all the spaces on campus regularly. We have emergency phones on campus. We have really good lighting. We do an escort service. And so that's more than you get in pretty much any community outside of a college. Lots of colleges do what we do. Going into Portland is fine, and you need to be aware. To go into Portland at midnight by yourself and walk down the street, that's like walking down any city street at midnight by yourself. There are going to be more risks there. Again, the owls, the other students, the students who have been here for a while are the greatest resource for your student in how to navigate all of these kinds of things. So if they want to go downtown and say, hey, what's it like to go downtown, and where should I go, and how do I get there? Asking their peers will be probably the most resonant thing for them to do. And my team is always here. Someone can always stop in and talk to us about particular things they want to do. It's hard to give a better answer generally. I would say start with their peers, start with the students who have been here, talk to their house advisors, and then reach out to folks like myself who do this professionally, if you still didn't get the stuff that you think would be helpful.
I know we're over time, and so one of the things that I know folks may still have questions. So as we finish up, please know to come on up here. We'll be able to answer some questions individually for you if you still have some of those lingering questions. So again, a big thank you to this crew. Again, I would say the way we support students, we do it as a community. We do it as a collective, and we can't do it alone. And you are part of that too. So don't be a stranger. It's okay to give us a call. I love chatting with parents quite often as well. Again, one of the last things I want to just note is that Tomorrow, hopefully you'll join us at Convocation, one of the most amazing, beautiful experiences you will see and have to experience at Reed, 10:30 a.m. in the morning, out on the Great Lawn, under the tent. We put up a big old tent for y'all. So go out there. It's a wonderful sight to see. The faculty would be there and all that good stuff. Again, welcome to campus and enjoy the rest of your day.